Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful, amazing planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Mocha Mondays with your host, Marc, Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, here for another inspirational message for the week ahead to give you, I don't know, maybe some inspiration, some guidance, some motivation, maybe help you think outside the box, get you to carpe diem, which is seize the day, especially after this weekend's events. There's a lot of sadness in the air, and there's a lot of grieving right now in the air. So just want to give it a second for people to jump on board. This is the inspirational section of the show, and at 8:30 I'll be back for the prospecting Q&A after show, where I have a conversation directly with all of the amazing spiritual prospectors that join me every Monday morning. I just want to say I'm back. I'm feeling healthy. I've seen the doctor. I've got over my spider bite. We're not sure if it was a black widow. We weren't sure if it was a wolf spider, and just trying to figure out my vertigo and dizziness. And I can tell you, it's kind of cool when you're under the weather because you get gifts. And so I just want to give a shout out real quick to my friends, Levi and Kira, who we saw this weekend. They were thinking about me, and what better way to cheer me up than with a nice Chewbacca doll from the movie Solo. So he's my mascot for today. Chewie is in the house just to kind of cheer me up, and they know I'm a huge Star Wars nerd fan, geek, whatever you want to call it. So thank you guys for doing that. And I just want to say thank you so much for all the support, energy, love from my spiritual development group, to my friends, to my family members that reached out to me. So I am feeling much, much better. And today I'm going to be talking about something that I was thinking about this about a week ago, with being sick and as a sensitive, as a seer, as somebody that's very in tune, as a psychic, as a medium, there are things that I see that are coming, and so carrying that heavy burden, I didn't know it was going to be one of the worst mass shootings in the nation this weekend, but I knew something bad was coming. I knew that there was going to be a lot of transitioning of life. And so last weekend I started thinking about what I wanted to talk about on today's show. And today's show is on average, this is on average now, and I'll get into a little bit more detail, but it's literally think about this for a second, guys, 151,000 plus people around the world do this every single day. And if you want to put a comment in the section, please do so. Interact with the show. That's how you get your top fan badge, and especially on the Prospecting Q&A after show, where I'll directly be talking to all of you. So I got about 20 spiritual prospectors tuning in this morning, hanging out with me this morning. So think about what happens every single day that 151,000 people around the planet do every single day. And while you're doing that, let's move into the magic of the moment. Take a nice deep breath with me. And this would not be Metaphysical Mocha Mondays without a nice cup of coffee. So I've got my yellow cup today with a nice big face on it, the smile, just to kind of deal with all of the sadness and the grieving that's going on right now. Before I get into today's inspirational message, I just want to take a moment to think about all the people, those that were murdered, those that were injured, the families that are now having to go through this heinous hate crime. I made a post this morning, or actually this weekend, because I've been directly impacted by hate crime. My little brother, was murdered from a hate crime. So I had done a post just the other day, on Saturday, after these horrendous actions took place, and the post, kind of a manifesto, I guess, if you will, my own manifesto, is I will always stand up to hate crimes, senseless violence, domestic terrorism, white nationalists, bigotry, bullying, and ignorance. If you defend such behavior, you support such behavior, and we can no longer be friends or be acquaintances. So if you're watching my show, or if you've liked my page, The Intuitive Prospector, and you disagree with that, please don't follow me anymore. Please defriend me. I do not want to be associated with people. I come from a place of love and unity and healing and spiritual prospecting, and I don't want to be around people I don't want to be associated with people like that. I don't want to be friends with people like that. Again, I will always stand up to hate crime, senseless violence, domestic terrorism, white nationalists, bigotry, bullying, and ignorance, because my brother was murdered because of a hate crime. And so if anybody can speak to this, it's this guy right here. It's a big part of why I do the work. And I just want to take a moment of silence and just honor those that moved into the spirit world, because that ties into today's message, because the 151,000 plus people that do this every single day is passed into spirit. death, dying. 151,000 people around the world every single day move into the spirit world. And so I just want to take a second to honor those, the families, the victims, those impacted by Dayton, Ohio, El Paso, and all the past shootings. This is not just these two shootings. These are shootings that have been going on for almost 2 decades since Columbine. And I'm just really concerned about our children in today's school system, the anxiety. And I just want to, sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. I just want to honor those that were impacted by this horrendous acts of evil and people that are just doing this. So I just take a nice deep breath in. Just send your energy and your thoughts and your compassion and your caringness and your love, most importantly, your love for the people that have been impacted by this weekend's tragic event. I meant the statistics of, the amount of people killed is more in one day than 2 years of our soldiers fighting the wars over in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq. And I hope it's an eye-opener for people. I hope that we change this insanity cycle, because I did a list of all the countries around the world and how many mass shootings they have. 0, 0, 0. And I think you got to Brazil had one, the UK had one, Canada had one, and then you get to the United States of America, and we have 250 as of this morning. And that's just sad. That's an insanity cycle. And, I'm going to get bashed, I know, from other people that have their ideologies and their beliefs. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I don't want to be murdered by the Second Amendment. And I just want to have a conversation, a constructive conversation that brings change, because the change begins with us, and then we go out and we make that change in the world. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to acknowledge a change that takes place with me. I was impacted by a hate crime, so I can speak to this firsthand experience. My little brother Michael was murdered. There was hate crime. There was racism involved with it. So if anybody can speak to this, it's this guy right here. And I can tell you guys, if we don't start coming together and identifying these problems, it will tear this country apart. So I just want to honor those that are impacted with my show this morning. Everybody that was impacted by the shooting, family, friends, colleagues, those that moved into the spirit world. They're in a much better place now, I can tell you that, moving into the spirit world. But unfortunately, they've moved now into that statistic of how many people die every single day. 151,000 plus on average of deaths that take place every single day around the world. So when you think about that, that means that eight people out of every 1,000 people in the population every minute are moving into the spirit world. Some way, somehow, sickness, tragic accidents, nature, mass shooting. Even today, the deaths are not as much as the births that are taking place. The amount of deaths that take place right now, on average, right now I'm looking at the world population by worldometers. The population is now 7.7 billion people. I can tell you, when I started my radio show almost 5 years ago, Inspired Living Radio, my promo was 7.1 billion people, but only one you. And now we're at to 7.7 billion people. The births today, almost 132,000 births today, this morning. Deaths today, 55,000. So the birth rate is actually outgrowing the death rate. So our population is expanding. But what I wanted to bring to light on today's message, that, when you start to think about how many people, and some of you will click off, that's fine, because I'm talking about death and dying, but it's something that I've had in part of the work that I do, the trauma, the tragedy that got me thinking about spiritualism, to start thinking about, when is going to be my day to move into the spirit world. But to come from a place that's not fearful, because death shouldn't be feared. And I teach on this from a metaphysical standpoint. And we can approach this a couple different ways. You can talk about us returning to source, the energy, the physical flesh suit falls away, if you will, but the energy that makes your heart go, from the laws of physics, we know that energy always has to go somewhere. It doesn't cease to exist. And when that energy returns to source, whatever that is for you, whether that's heaven, where there is no heaven, we have believers, we have non-believers, we have atheists, we have agnostics, which means they want proof of God. Everybody is welcome here in this community, because we all have a different perception. We all have something to offer to this, what I call soul adventure. But I have found in my journey and connecting with those that are no longer here, we call it after-death communications. Some of you know me as a spiritual medium. I've done hundreds of readings around the world with tons of people, and there's something to this, guys. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm just telling you, in my own experiences and the readings I've done, I'm either a hell of a good guesser, or there's something to life after death. And death is not to be feared. In fact, Emilio Misco talked about the second we are born, we start dying. So this really is not life, this is death. And you always hear about the two things guaranteed in life are death and taxes. And what I can tell you is, dying is not to be sad. It's not to be fearful. Now, of course, we all in our minds think about how am I going to transition? Like, I don't want to suffer, right? I don't want to be buried alive. I don't want to be killed by a clown. I don't like clowns. Or a big spider. There are certain things of how you don't want to go when you are dying. You want to, you always talk about, I want to go in my sleep. And actually, one of my mentors did. She passed in her sleep because I can tell you as a certified healthcare provider and teacher, the two biggest causes of death these days are cardiac disease and stroke. And she was only 63 when she passed in the spirit world, but she was sleeping in her bed. And I thought, what better way to go? If you're going to go, that's the way to go. But this morning I'm talking about how many people move into the spirit world on a daily average, which is about 151,000 plus people around the world move into spirit. So, my show is about inspiring. It's about carpe diem, about season today, appreciating life. That's why it's called the present. The future's not ever guaranteed. And what's the old saying? Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is the gift. That's why they call it the present. And that's very, very true. It kind of just ties in. It was what I was picking up, a very heavy burden last week. I knew something was coming. I knew something was in motion. I could feel it. I don't always know exactly what it's going to be, but I knew that there was going to be a big transitioning of life, those that are here physically living, moving tragically into the spirit world. And and I talked to my wife about this, and I talked to a few friends, my development group, I talked about this, about the heavy burden of carrying what we call claircognizance. It's a sense of knowing something, but you can't necessarily put your finger on it. It's a scratch. You can't necessarily itch. It's the analytical mind wanting to know that knowledge of, okay, why are you feeling like this? And even one of my earlier mentors, early when I first started my journey, John Holland, a great teacher out of Maine, amazing psychic medium. When I had went to his workshop at the Omega Institute in upstate New York, I asked him, how do you deal with just knowing something, but you can't always prove it, or you can't analyze it, or you can't rationalize? And he told me the price of sensitivity is sensitivity, and that's always stuck with me. And so I always refer to that often. That's not what that's John Holland saying, but it's really stuck with me in the fact that, the price of sensitivity is sensitivity. Sensitivity to food, sensitivity to energy, sensitivity to spaces or people or experiences, sensitivity to global consciousness of what's going on, feeling the grieving, feeling the anxiety, feeling the fear of, even yesterday we went to a soccer match here in Seattle. I had bought tickets for my wife because yesterday is just a kind of a down day for her. Her father, my father-in-law, had moved into the spirit world on August 4th, 19 years ago, from the horrible, horrendous disease of multiple sclerosis. Suffered tremendously and then finally found peace by dying and moving to the spirit world. So I bought her tickets yesterday to a soccer match. Sounders, go Sounders. And I was even mindful of how you could just tell people were on edge. People were, constantly looking around. The security was very, very tight. But we kind of go to these open, general areas with a lot of people gathered, and you're like thinking, is somebody going to break out a military-style weapon and just randomly shooting? I'm at that shooting in Dayton, Ohio. The guy killed 9 people in less than a minute before police officers could finally take him out. About 30 seconds, they said. And so 9 people moved into the spirit world in Dayton, Ohio, along with the people in El Paso, contributing to this 151,000 people that move into the spirit world. And it's kind of eye-opening when you think about it. I always say that death is not the end, though. It's just the next step on the progressive staircase of knowledge, of love, of wisdom. But I always say that, dying is easy. It's living that scares me to death, because it's the living that can really challenge you with all the different changes. Like I said, I was impacted by hate crime. I can speak directly to hate crime. I can speak directly to racism. I can speak to all of this because it impacted me with the murder of my little brother at the age of 21. A drug deal gone bad, marijuana, which is now, the irony is it's legal here in Washington State, and it will be, in my prediction, will be federally legalized within the next 5 years across the United States. Feel free to agree or disagree. I just know that it's a very medicinal healing plant, the hemp plant, and my brother was killed for it, and now it's legal. So just want to say good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. This is Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Make sure to share out the page if you like. Make sure to subscribe to the page, like to the page. If you interact with the page, you get your top fan badge, and I'll be recognizing my top fans and those that have the top fan badge here at 8:30, which is in about 10 minutes for the prospecting Q&A after show. So you'll want to make sure to come back here or join my premiere over on my YouTube page, which is in the description of this. And I can tell you, for all of my spiritual prospectors that have subscribed to my page on YouTube, there is a hidden key on last week's show that you may want to go check out, where I've given out 5 keys, keys to one of my classes called Spiritual ABCs Level 1. It's a class I normally charge for on Learn It Live. I've now given out 5 of those keys. So if you can grab that code, you can go over and register with Learn It Live, put in the key, and it's a great way to start working on your Spiritual ABCs Level 1. There's 3 levels that I've taught to on Spiritual ABCs, and it's just I wanted to appreciate and honor those that hang out with me every Monday morning and join me for my show, and it's my way of giving back. So at 8:30, this show ends. It starts to premiere over on my YouTube channel, and then I'll come right back at 8:30 to have the Prospecting Q&A after show, where I take your calls. I take your, might be a reading. I have no idea what we're going to get because I don't actually start tuning in until 8:30. And you can ask me a question, 1 question per person, please, so I can try to get to everybody. It could be a card reading, could be just an intuition hit I'm picking up. The more specific your question, the more specific my answer I can be. And then if it's mediumship, then I have you either call in on my business line, or we split screen the video and have you come on and we can talk and have a spiritual chat that way. So can't guarantee who's going to come through. I'm not always going to be right in what I do, but I will give it my best. I'll give it a go. But for those that are looking for those free keys, you'll want to head over to my YouTube channel. Last week's show, where I talked about Mighty Oaks from Little Acorns Grow, is the name of the show that I did last week, and on there is 5 keys, 5 key codes to unlock the treasure of Spiritual ABCs Level 1. So share out if you like, subscribe if you like. I will also be doing another show on Instagram. My Instagram channel is, I've got 2. The one is Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Just look for that on Instagram, or Inspired for Us. That's the number 4. That's the radio show page, which is Inspired Living Radio, which is my weekly live broadcast, and then goes to podcasts every Wisdom Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, through the internet, and it's called Inspired Living Radio, where we've been on the air for going to be going into our 5th season after this year. So we've been on the air for 4 years. Amazing topics. Wonderful guests, just very inspiring guests, and we cover all topics from medicine, meditation, mindfulness, metaphysics, mediumship, and everything in between. So you might want to check that over at marclainhart.com. If you want to just find out anything I'm doing, just go to marclainhart.com. My events, my links, my articles, my Alexa. You can open me up through Alexa or Echo under Positive Living. Just ask to open up Positive Living, and I've now recorded my voice where you actually get spiritual daily tips. So, okay, there's my plug. Let's continue on. Let's talk about, let me grab a quick cup of coffee here. I want to give you your crystal for the week. I also want to give you my book recommendation for the week, and I also want to give you your totem animal spirit for the week. So let's start with the crystal for the week, because this morning we're just honoring those that have been impacted from the mass shootings today and yesterday, and in the past. Everybody that's been impacted. I've been impacted by a shooting. I've been impacted by a hate crime. My brother was murdered. So it impacts me greatly when this stuff happens. I care very deeply and very passionately about this. And this morning I wanted just to give you what's called the phantom quartz. So if you've never worked with the crystals, rocks, stones, they all play like an amplifier to increasing your energy. If you think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration from a metaphysical standpoint, it can really kind of open you up to connect to something that is unseen. Very much like what I call the wind. We all would agree, well, hopefully in this day and age, not all of us would agree, because some people actually believe the world is flat, but we know that there is no... we know that not to be true. There's pictures from climbers at the top of Mount Everest that literally shows the curvature of the earth. But we would mostly agree that we see the effects of the wind. We just don't see the wind with our eyes. And the spirit world moves very much the same way. It impacts us from different senses, through the ability to just know something, to feel something, to hear something, to maybe see something here within your memory. We call it clairvoyance. And that is using your different senses to connect with those that are no longer here, a world within a world, if you will. I don't go into the whole heaven or hell thing, because we always think heaven is up and hell is down, but we're on a round planet, so physically that doesn't make sense. Dimensionally it doesn't make sense, because there is no up or down when there's a round planet sitting in space. But when you work with the quartz, when you work with rocks, and when you work with stones, it does, just think of you like a guitar. Just like on stage, for you music lovers out there, we get played by life every single day, and we have to retune, and then you go to a concert and they plug into this amplifier and everything just like really pops. Crystals and stones are the same way, and I didn't always believe in this, guys. Even when I started my journey, it wasn't until 2013 a colleague and good friend of mine, Sarah from Wisconsin, who I had met at Omega Institute, said you really should try crystals and meditating with crystals. And I did that week, and it was pretty eye-opening. I had to experience it for myself, and the skeptic became the believer. But this week I want to give you, this is called Phantom Quartz, and the Phantom Quartz is, it's pretty easy stone to go out and get at any rock stone or any rock shop. It's found worldwide, and it's no different than the quartz that runs in your cell phones, your watches. Quartz is used a lot, from computer boards to all over. So the quartz today, though, the Phantom Quartz, the reason I picked this quartz for today specifically, I try to tie it into the message of today's show, which is 151,000 people die every single day, plus 151,000 plus people die and move into the spirit world every single day worldwide. And the Phantom Crystal symbolizes what we call universal awareness. And today I picked that stone because we have to have universal awareness for what is going on in our world, a world that seems to be divided by politics and religion and social media and 24-hour news. And I can tell you, there's the big problem is right here in the United States. And we need to have universal awareness if we want to move into a place that is more evolved and more enlightened. We're going to have to go through some of this minutia of violence and crime and chaos. The history of the world is always had a history of violence and chaos. We just know more about it because of our connection through social media and news. But the crystal is about universal awareness and the awareness of love and unity. The crystal also, its purpose is to stimulate healing for the planet. And boy, right now we need it as a humanitarian, as a professional diver. Every dive I've done around the planet, and I've dove all around the planet, guys. Every dive I've done, the only thing I've seen consistently on every single dive I've done is plastic. We are poisoning our planet, and we need to start having awareness to what we're doing as a species, because man is the only species that changes its environments. The beaver does too, but they do it in a way that's more natural. We're actually changing our planet, and I always remind people that Mother Earth will always survive. She is the landlord, we are the tenants, and she can evict at any time if she doesn't like what's going on. And I can tell you, with the planet, from a humanitarian standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, this crystal is really great at bringing about awareness from a conscious level, but also bringing forth healing for our planet, because it connects to your spirit guides, your angels, your belief system, whatever it is for you. It does help you to connect to something that is unseen, something that's a higher vibration. Think of a radio frequency, tune in that radio frequency. So that's why I wanted to give you the Phantom Quartz today as your prospecting stone. And also just sending healing for not only to the planet, but those impacted by hate crimes, those impacted by bigotry, ignorance, white nationalism, domestic terrorism, all that. We want to bring awareness, and we want it to stop. I came into this planet. I didn't know I'd always be doing spiritual work, but I came in here from my experiences to try to bring awareness, because, Eckhart Tolle reminds us that awareness is the greatest agent for change, and that's so true. And I'm just trying to, just remind people that we are born, from the moment that we are born, we start dying, and our cells start dying. It's, every second, we are changing, and I'm dying, but I'm also having fun along the way, and that's what I want to bring forth: is fun, love, community, bringing people together, not dividing people. But I will stand up when it's hate crimes and senseless violence. you will see this. You will see this Taurus. You will see this Prospector really stand up for a cause. I still be respectful of people's opinions, but when you start to defend something like this from a political standpoint, from a religious standpoint, you support stuff like this, and I can't be associated with people like that. So again, if you want to defriend me, don't follow my show, please don't. I don't want that energy. I don't want that type of connection with what I do, but I'm very passionate when it comes to, strong people don't put others down, they lift them up, and that's what I'm trying to do. And not everybody's going to agree with me, but I will always stand up to hate crimes, senseless violence, domestic terrorism, white nationalists, bigotry, bullying, and ignorance. Period. End of story. If you disagree with me, then please do not follow my show. Please unlike it. Please defriend me. I don't want to be a part of that. And the reason I'm doing that, because the number this week is surrender, 91. The 9 means completion. This needs to complete. This is a cycle of completion. And the 1 is about independence and starting over. We can all start over. We can all come to the table with our different perspectives and try to have a civil agreement of what makes this place, our planet, a society, all better. We can do that. It is about the people, for the people. This is what this country was founded on, about the people, for the people. And just so you guys know, I have my famous book right here that I read all the time, the Constitution of the United States, because I want to see this country succeed. I want to see all countries succeed. I want to see people succeed. And I raised my right hand to defend the Constitution of the United States. I took an oath, and it's not about left. It's not about right. It's about center and moving forward for what's right for everybody, and making sure that we bring everybody along. And so the surrender card is your reminder for this week, your inspiration for this week. Again, 9 is completion, 1 is beginning. And I'm just going to randomly pull from my deck, and then we'll get ready for the prospecting Q&A after show. See some of you saying good morning. Good morning to all of you. We're going to have the prospecting Q&A after show here in just a second. Oh, and I was just talking about the beaver. I said the only other species that changes the face of its environment are humans. And I said the only other creature on the planet that is known to do that are beavers, because when they back up a dam, they build a dam which was once dry land becomes underwater. So they have the ability to change their environment as well. So it's interesting. I picked the beaver. And the beaver's saying to do your chores. So when you see the beaver, whether in a magazine or a movie or in real life, it's just a reminder to do your chores. And part of our chores from a spiritual standpoint is to be kind, caring, compassionate, treat people like you like to be treated. The golden rule, paying it forward. All of that applies, and trying to bring peace into the planet without with everything that we see going on. So I just want to leave that message with you today. I do book reminders. I'm rereading this book actually, because I do a mentorship program, and this is one of the books I use in my mentorship program. It's a fantastic book. It's called The Powers. His name is Marc. He was actually an ambassador back during, I believe, the Clinton administration. And he was on our radio show a couple seasons ago talking about this book. And it's really 12 principles to transform your life from ordinary to extraordinary. And I use this as one of the books. I use a lot of books in my mentorship, personal one-on-one mentorship. And this book, it's a very easy read. You can kind of see the spacing of the letters. But it's a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it. So I'm trying to give book recommendations from people that I've interviewed either on my show or had a direct link to. And his name is Marc, again, former ambassador, and just a fantastic book to 12 principles. And I love 12 because the 12 adds up to 3. And in numerology, 3 is about balance, mind, body, spirit, but it's also this year, a universal year in 2019. So hold on to your butts, because the next 6 months of this year are still going to be a wild ride, guys. 2019 is a universal year. Big universal things happen. So pay attention to that. Try to find peace. Don't buy into fear. Fear for me is false evidence appearing real, and don't be worried about failure, because that's first attempt in learning, and that's what we're all here to do, is to learn, to have fun. And like I said, I am dying. We're all dying. That's guaranteed. I'm just trying to have fun along the way. And death is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning of another. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And as of right now, the current world population, today's birth rate, 137,000. Today's death rate, since I've been talking on this show, has moved from 55,000 to 57,000 people that have died since I started this show, which is doesn't break it down by the minute, but it's about 8 people per 1,000 in the population that move into the spirit world. So, got to wonder, that's a lot of people, guys. And we got more birth rates coming in versus death rates. Do we come back? Is there reincarnation? I don't know, but we've all had that deja vu. We've had that. I feel like I remember this. I feel like I've been here before. So it's a journey. It's a soul adventure. I don't know, but let's get ready to do a little spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual gold. This is going to premiere over on my YouTube channel. I'll be giving out another free key. If you subscribe to my channel, like my page, share the page if you like. But this will premiere over on my YouTube channel, and I'll also be doing a show later on my Instagram channel if you want to get on, and that'll be a completely different show over on Instagram. So Mondays are kind of my show days, and Wednesdays are my radio days. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Stick around. I'll be back here in about 30 seconds or so for the Prospecting Q&A after show. And just, keep your chin up. Keep moving forward. Always move forward. And I just want to appreciate you. I just want to shout out to those that have been following the show for some time. And I just want to honor those that have been impacted this weekend from the horrible, horrific mass shootings in Dayton and El Paso. And everybody that's been impacted from this point back, including myself, with hate crimes or racism. We don't want that, guys. We want to move forward. We want peace. We want joy. We want happiness. We want to live. We want to carpe diem. So thank you so much for hanging out. Have a great rest of your week. I'll be back next Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're I'll be up in Canada this weekend doing an event, a workshop, and a mediumship demonstration. So if you're in Westminster or Surrey, I will be doing some work up there in Canada. Would love to meet you in person, hang out with you. And just go to marclainhart.com to get all that information. And the cool 2020 events that are coming up here in Seattle, guys. So you want to pay attention to that as well. So thanks so much. Have a great rest of your week. And until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and we'll see you next Monday. Namaste.